The great chamber of the Galactic Senate buzzed with voices from 1,000 worlds. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy sat in their floating pods, each one glowing with the light of their home star. At the center of it all stood a single human figure in a simple black suit. Ambassador Min-Jun Kim looked calm as he faced the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. His dark hair was neat, his hands steady at his sides. He did not look like someone fighting for the future of his entire species. "The human problem must be solved today," announced Chancellor Vex Thyran. The tall, blue-skinned Zephyrian's voice echoed through the chamber. "We have gathered evidence of human aggression across 17 star systems." A hologram appeared above the chamber floor. It showed images of human soldiers, human ships, human colonies expanding across space. The images made humans look dangerous and violent. "Look at their history," hissed Senator Krakneth, a reptilian Sorok. "They fight endless wars on their own planet. They consume resources without thought. They solve problems with violence." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Kim listened without changing his expression. He had heard these accusations many times before. "The humans claim they have changed," said Ambassador Fel-Orin of the peaceful Andrathi. "But can we trust a species born from such violence? They call their planet a death world. Even their gravity is dangerous to most of us." More voices joined the debate. The insectoid Vex spoke of human expansion being too fast. The crystalline resonance worried about human emotions affecting their delicate mental networks. Each species found reasons to fear humanity. Chancellor Vex Thyran raised 4 arms for silence. "Ambassador Kim, you may speak for your species one final time." Min-Jun stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear. "Honored representatives, we understand your fears. Humans are different from many species here. We evolved on a planet with higher gravity, stronger weather, and more predators than most worlds." He paused, looking around the vast chamber. "But this same evolution taught us to solve problems, to adapt, to help others survive. In the past 50 years since joining this galactic community, humans have developed vaccines for the Andrathi plague, designed safer mining equipment for the Corvan deep colonies, and created new food synthesis methods that feed billions." "Pretty words," scoffed Krakneth. "But we have seen human military exercises. We know about your weapons research. You prepare for war, even in peacetime. We prepare for problems." Min-Jun replied simply, "It is our nature to plan ahead." "Exactly our point," said Chancellor Vex Thyran. "Your nature is the problem. You think in terms of conflict and domination. This is incompatible with galactic peace." The debate continued for hours. Human defenders were few. Only the trade-focused mercanti and the scholarly archivists spoke in favor of keeping humans in the galactic community. Even they seemed unsure. Finally, Chancellor Vex Thyran called for the vote. "All in favor of expelling humanity from galactic territory and revoking their membership in this Senate?" Lights began appearing across the chamber as representatives voted. Red lights for expulsion, blue lights to allow humans to stay. The counting display grew red very quickly. Min-Jun watched the votes without emotion. He slowly reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. His finger hovered over a button as he watched the final count appear. "The vote is final," announced Vex Thyran. 847 votes for expulsion, 12 votes against. Humanity is hereby banished from all galactic territories. All human presence must be withdrawn from non-Earth systems within 30 standard days. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some representatives looked relieved. Others seemed uncertain about what they had done. A few appeared genuinely sad. Min-Jun pressed the button on his device. Across the galaxy, humans would know the vote results within minutes. They would also know it was time to begin the next phase. "We accept the decision of this Senate," Min-jun said clearly. His calm voice cut through the noise. "Humanity will comply with the expulsion order." This response surprised many representatives. They had expected anger, pleading, or threats. Instead, the human ambassador seemed almost peaceful about the decision. "You accept this rather easily," observed Chancellor Vex Thyron, suspicious. "We are a practical species," Min-jun replied. "We do not waste energy fighting battles that cannot be won. We will withdraw from galactic space as ordered." "What about your colonies?" asked Senator Fel Oren. "Your research stations. Your people have built lives throughout the galaxy." "Our people will return home," Min-jun answered. "We will take care of our own, as we always have." Something in his tone made several representatives uncomfortable. The human was too calm, too accepting. Most species would be desperate or angry. Humans had invested decades in becoming part of galactic society. Why was their representative not fighting harder? "The evacuation period begins immediately," declared Vex Thyron. "All human vessels and personnel must be outside galactic territory within the specified time." "Understood," said Min-jun. He gave a small bow to the chamber. "Thank you for the years of cooperation. Humanity wishes you well in your future endeavors." He turned and walked toward the exit without another word. His footsteps echoed in the suddenly quiet chamber. As the human left, whispers began among the representatives. Something felt wrong about his reaction. The ease of his acceptance was unsettling. On the Corvin homeworld, Supervisor Zex Cole received news of the vote while overseeing the main spaceport. He had worked with humans for years and found them reliable partners. The news troubled him, but what troubled him more was the message that followed. All human transport ships were requesting immediate departure clearances. They were already loading cargo and preparing to leave. It was as if they had known the vote results before the voting even finished. Similar reports came from across the galaxy. Human facilities were shutting down in an orderly manner. Human personnel were packing with unusual efficiency. There was no panic, no desperate last-minute negotiations. It looked like humanity had been preparing for this moment for a long time. Back on Earth, Min-jun Kim stood in a secure communication room. The device in his hand was still warm from the signal it had sent. Around him, other humans worked at computer stations, coordinating the evacuation. "Phase 1 is complete," he reported to the screen showing other human leaders. "They voted exactly as we predicted." "Any surprises?" asked Admiral Sarah Chen. "None. They fear what they do not understand, and they understand very little about us." Min-jun looked out through a window at the night sky. Soon, every human in that sky would be coming home, but they would not be coming home empty-handed. "Begin Phase 2, he said quietly. In the depths of space, invisible to alien sensors, human technology that had never been revealed began to activate. 3 days after the Senate vote, the evacuation began across the galaxy. On every human colony, research station, and outpost, the same scene played out. Humans packed their belongings with quiet efficiency and prepared to leave worlds they had called home. Supervisor Zex Cole watched from his office window as another human transport ship landed at Nexus 7 trade station. The massive cargo vessel settled onto the landing pad with barely a sound. Its hull was clean and well-maintained, like all human ships. "The humans are very organized," said his assistant, Jack Mole. The young Corvan seemed confused by what they were seeing. Most species would be angry or sad. They look like they are going on a planned vacation. Zex Cole agreed. In his 40 years of managing the station, he had seen many species leave during political disputes. There were always tears, arguments, and desperate attempts to stay. The humans showed none of this emotion. Captain Sarah Chen walked up to Zex Cole's desk with a data pad. Her red hair was tied back neatly. and she wore the same calm expression all humans seem to have these days. "Departure clearance for Transport 77 Alpha," she said politely. "We will be leaving in 6 hours." Zex Cole looked at the manifest on his screen. "This says you are taking mining equipment. Did you not arrive with research materials?" "We brought different things than we are taking," Sarah replied with a small smile. "We traded some items with local crews. This was technically allowed, but something felt strange about it." Zex Call pulled up the arrival records from when the human research team first came to Nexus 7. They had brought computers, scientific instruments, and analysis tools. Now they were leaving with industrial fabricators, rare metals, and communication arrays. "These trades were approved by the Commerce Board?" he asked. "All paperwork is in order," Sarah assured him. She handed over another datapad with dozens of transaction records. Everything was purchased or traded legally. Zex Cole scanned the records. The trades were legal, but unusual. The humans had slowly exchanged their research equipment for manufacturing tools and raw materials over the past several months. Not just here, but according to the Galactic Trade Network, similar patterns were happening everywhere humans worked. "May I ask why you need so much manufacturing equipment?" Zex Cole said carefully. "Humans like to build things," Sarah answered. "We want to be ready for our new life." Her tone was friendly. But Zex Call sensed she would not give more details. He approved the departure clearance. As Sarah walked away, he noticed she spoke briefly into a small communication device. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening at every major trade hub and colony world. On the mining planet Krothos Prime, engineer Vorthok watched human workers pack up their equipment from the atmospheric processing plant. The humans had arrived 5 years ago to help improve air quality for the underground cities. Their work had been excellent. "I still do not understand why they must leave," Vorthok said to his human counterpart, Dr. James Park. "Your team solved problems we worked on for decades." James sealed another equipment case before answering. "Politics. Sometimes smart people make dumb decisions. But the atmospheric processors will need maintenance. Who will service the biofilters you designed?" "We left detailed instruction manuals," James replied. "Your engineers are smart. You will figure it out." Vorthok looked worried. The biofilters were complex systems that cleaned the planet's air. The human-designed improvements had made them much more efficient, but also more complicated. "What if something breaks that we do not understand?" he pressed. "Then you will learn," James said simply. "That is what engineers do." As the humans finished packing, Vorthok noticed they were taking more equipment than he remembered them bringing. When he mentioned this, James shrugged. "We accumulated things over the years. Tools, spare parts, materials we ordered for projects, all legally purchased." The explanation made sense, but Vorthok felt uneasy. The humans seemed too prepared, too ready to leave, like they had been planning this departure for a long time. On the research station orbiting Andrathi Prime, Dr. Yuki Tanaka finished downloading data from the medical research computers. The small human science team had spent 3 years developing treatments for Andrathi genetic disorders. Their work had saved thousands of lives. "Why are you taking all the research data?" asked Dr. Mel Oren, her Andrathi research partner. "We are taking our contributions to the research," Yuki explained patiently. "The data we collected, the analysis methods we developed, the experimental protocols we designed. You still have all the background data and your own research." Mel Oren's feathered head drooped. "But without your analytical methods, we cannot continue the treatment development." "You will need to develop your own methods," Yuki said. "It will be good for your scientific independence." As Yuki packed the last of the equipment, Mel Oren noticed something strange. The humans were taking devices that looked more advanced than anything she had seen before. When she asked about them, Yuki smiled. "Personal equipment. Humans like to tinker with technology in our free time. But the devices looked too sophisticated to be personal projects. They appeared to be scanning and communication equipment far beyond anything the research station used. Similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human doctors took their medical knowledge and treatment protocols. Human engineers took their design specifications and manufacturing techniques. Human scientists took their research methods and experimental data. In each case, the humans were polite and legal. They took only what they had brought or what they had legally acquired. But alien observers began noticing patterns. The humans had been quietly trading and purchasing specific types of equipment for months. They had been slowly copying and backing up data that other species had assumed would remain shared. They had been preparing for departure long before the Senate vote. On Nexus 7, Zex Cole received a priority message from the Galactic Commerce Authority. Similar reports were coming from across the galaxy. Humans were departing with manufacturing equipment, rare materials, advanced technology, and comprehensive data archives. What are they planning to do with all of this? Jekmol wondered aloud. Zex Cole studied the reports. The humans had legally acquired everything they were taking, but the pattern suggested careful, long-term planning. They were not just leaving the galactic community. They were taking the knowledge and tools to become completely independent. I think, Zex Cole said slowly. That evening, he watched the last human transport lift off from Nexus 7. The ship's engines glowed blue as it accelerated toward the Sol system. Other ships were leaving from every human outpost in the galaxy, all heading in the same direction. Within 2 weeks, the evacuation was nearly complete. The humans departed, with efficiency that impressed even their critics. There were no desperate pleas to the Senate, no attempts to negotiate a different outcome. But as alien administrators began reviewing what the humans had taken, a disturbing picture emerged. The humans had not just been working in the galactic community. They had been learning everything they could about alien technology, copying every process they were involved in, and slowly acquiring the tools to replicate all of it. It looked less like an evacuation and more like a carefully planned withdrawal after a successful intelligence operation. On the bridge of the last human transport leaving Andrathi space, Captain Chen received a coded message from Earth. All evacuation ships were reporting the same thing. They had successfully collected everything on the list. Mission complete, she said into her communicator. All assets secured. Behind her, the stars held no more human presence. Ahead, Earth waited with technologies and capabilities that no alien species suspected humans possessed. 3 weeks had passed since the last human ship disappeared behind the mysterious barrier that now surrounded the Sol system. The galaxy was adjusting to life without humanity, and most species felt relieved. The dangerous humans were gone, and galactic civilization could return to peaceful cooperation. That peace lasted exactly 21 days. On Krathos Prime, Engineer Vorthok received an emergency alert at 0300 local time. The atmospheric processing plant that supplied clean air to 50 million underground dwellers was showing critical failures. Biofilter Array 7 is offline, reported his night shift supervisor over the communications system. We cannot restore function. Vorthok rushed to the plant through the underground tunnels that connected all major buildings on the mining world. The air already felt heavier and harder to breathe. When he arrived at the processing facility, warning lights flashed red throughout the complex. What happened? He demanded. The biofilters just stopped working, explained shift leader Kemvox. All the human-designed improvements are failing at the same time. Vorthok pulled up the system diagnostics on his computer. The displays showed catastrophic failures in the biological air cleaning systems. But these were not random breakdowns. Every failure was in components that humans had modified or improved. Get me the technical manuals the humans left, he ordered. 20 minutes later, 3 thick data files appeared on his screen. Vorthok began reading through the maintenance procedures. The words were in standard galactic script, but the concepts were confusing. Biosymbiotic matrix recalibration? He read aloud. What does that even mean? The more he read, the more confused he became. The human documentation was technically accurate, but assumed knowledge that Kratos engineers did not have. The procedures referenced equipment calibrations, chemical balances, and timing sequences that were never fully explained. Contact the human research team, Vorthok ordered. We need technical support. Sir, Chemvox replied hesitantly. The humans are gone. The Sol system is sealed. No one has been able to contact them for weeks. Vorthok felt a cold realization creeping over him. The humans had designed improvements that only they fully understood. Now that they were gone, no one knew how to maintain their work. By dawn, 3 more biofilter arrays had failed. The underground cities were reporting dangerous air quality levels. Emergency breathing systems activated automatically. But they could only support the population for a few days. Across the galaxy, similar emergencies were beginning. On Nexus 7 trade station, Supervisor Zex Cole stared at his communications console as it displayed nothing but error messages. The quantum communication network that connected trade stations throughout the sector had stopped working. The relay nodes are not responding, reported communications technician Yelsark. We have lost contact with 17 stations. Zex Call pulled up the network diagnostics. The quantum entanglement communicators were functioning, but the coordination protocols had failed. These protocols had been designed by human computer specialists to make communication faster and more reliable. Do we have the source code for the communication software? Zex Call asked. Yelsark checked the computer archives. We have the basic programs, but not the optimization routines. The humans said those were proprietary improvements. The improvements had made communication across the sector nearly instantaneous. Without them, messages took hours or days to travel between stations. Trade coordination became impossible. Try to contact the human programming team, Zex Cole ordered, knowing it was hopeless. Sir, all human contact attempts have failed. The Sol barrier cannot be penetrated by our communications. Within hours, trade throughout the sector ground to a halt. Without fast communication, cargo ships could not coordinate deliveries, and space traffic control became dangerous. On the agricultural world of Verdania, Chief Administrator Welfren faced a different crisis. The automated farming systems that fed 3 billion people across 4 star systems were malfunctioning. The crop yield optimization programs are not working, reported Agricultural Director Oz Lim. Production efficiency has dropped by 60%. The human agricultural specialists had designed computer programs that analyzed weather, soil conditions, and plant genetics to maximize food production. The programs used complex algorithms that significantly increased crop yields while using fewer resources. Can we run the farms without the optimization programs? Welfren asked. Yes, but we can only produce about half as much food, Oz Lim replied grimly. That means food shortages across multiple systems. Emergency reports began flooding into the Galactic Senate. Critical systems were failing on dozens of worlds. The failures all had one thing in common. They involved technology, or processes, that humans had improved or designed. Chancellor Vex Thyron called an emergency Senate session. The Great Chamber was filled with worried representatives reporting problems from their home systems. The humans have sabotaged our infrastructure, accused Senator Crackneth. They designed these systems to fail when they left. That makes no sense, replied Ambassador Fel Oren. Why would they wait years to activate sabotage? They could have caused damage immediately when we expelled them. Dr. Quexvel, the Senate's chief technology advisor, had been analyzing reports from across the galaxy. Her presentation appeared as a hologram in the center of the chamber. The evidence suggests these are not sabotage attacks, she announced. These appear to be cascade failures of systems that were more dependent on human expertise than we realized. The hologram showed a galaxy-wide map with red indicators marking system failures. The pattern was clear. Every failure involved technology that humans had worked on. How is this possible? demanded Chancellor Vex Thyron. We approved all human projects. We monitored their work. We approved the results, Dr. Quexvel corrected. But we did not fully understand their methods. The humans integrated their improvements into our systems in ways that made them difficult to maintain without their expertise. OA. Representative Zix Moore of the Industrial Mercanti spoke up. Are you saying the humans deliberately made themselves indispensable? Not deliberately, Dr. Quexvel replied. But human thinking patterns are different from ours. They solve problems in ways that require their specific knowledge to maintain. When they left, they took that knowledge with them. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Some representatives demanded immediate action to restore the failing systems. Others called for attempts to force contact with humanity. A few suggested military action to break through the Sol barrier. Military action against a sealed system is impossible, Admiral Kex Thane reported. Our best ships cannot even scan the Sol barrier, let alone penetrate it. The energy field appears to use technology we do not understand. Chancellor Vex Thyron realized the gravity of their situation. How many critical systems are dependent on human innovations? Dr. Quexvel's expression was grim. We are still discovering the extent of human integration into our infrastructure. Initial estimates suggest thousands of essential systems across hundreds of worlds. Can we repair these systems ourselves? Asked Senator Felloren. Some, eventually. But it will take years to understand and replicate human methods. Many systems may need to be completely rebuilt using our own technology. The chamber fell silent as representatives absorbed this news. The humans had not attacked them or threatened them. They had simply left, taking their knowledge and expertise with them. But that departure was causing galactic civilization to slowly collapse. How long do we have? Chancellor Vex Thyron asked quietly. For critical systems like atmospheric processing and food production, days to weeks before some worlds face emergency situations. The Chancellor looked around the chamber at the faces of representatives who were beginning to understand what they had done. By expelling humanity, they had not eliminated a threat. They had removed the foundation that their civilization had unknowingly built upon. Send a message to the Sol system, he ordered. Request immediate technical assistance for humanitarian crises. Admiral Kex Thane shook his head. Sir, we have tried. All communication attempts with the Sol system are blocked by the barrier. It appears the humans are not accepting messages from outside. As the Senate session continued, more emergency reports arrived. The cascade of failures was accelerating as systems that depended on human-maintained components began breaking down across the galaxy. The species that had feared human aggression were learning that human absence was far more dangerous than human presence had ever been. 6 weeks after the human evacuation, galactic civilization was collapsing faster than anyone had thought possible. What began as isolated system failures had become a cascade of critical breakdowns, affecting every aspect of life across hundreds of worlds. Chancellor Vex Thyron stood in the emergency command center that had been hastily constructed in the Senate building. Holographic displays showed crisis reports from across the galaxy. Red warning indicators covered most of the map. Status report, he demanded from his exhausted staff. Krathos Prime has been evacuated to emergency shelters, reported Crisis Coordinator Jex Lan. Atmospheric processing remains at 30% capacity. They have maybe 10 days of breathable air left. Food riots have broken out on 7 agricultural worlds, added another aide. Without the human crop optimization systems, production has fallen below survival levels. The Nexus trade network is completely down, said a third. Commerce between systems has essentially stopped. Vex Thyron felt the weight of billions of lives depending on his decisions. The Senate had voted to remove what they saw as a dangerous species. Instead, they had torn out the foundation of galactic society. Any progress on contacting humanity? He asked Admiral Kex Thane. The military leader's expression was grim. None. We have tried everything. The Sol barrier reflects or absorbs every form of communication we attempt. Our best scientists cannot even determine what technology creates it. What about breaking through by force? Impossible with current technology. We sent our most advanced fleet to test the barrier. Their weapons had no effect. The barrier did not even react to our attacks. Dr. Quexvel approached with another datapad full of bad news. Chancellor, we have discovered something disturbing about the scope of human integration into our systems. She activated a holographic display showing the Galactic Infrastructure Network. This is a map of all critical systems that are currently failing or at risk of failure. The display was mostly red. Nearly every major system in galactic space was highlighted as dependent on human technology or expertise. How is this possible? Vex Thyron demanded. We monitored human activities. They were not in positions to control our infrastructure. They were not controlling it, Dr. Quexvel explained. They were improving it. Every human team that worked on our technology made it better, more efficient, more capable. But they also made it dependent on their methods and knowledge. She zoomed in on a section of the display. For example, the humans improved our faster-than-light communication by 40%. But their improvements require quantum calibration techniques that only they understand. Without those calibrations, the system gradually degrades and fails. Why did we not learn these techniques ourselves? Asked Senator Fellorin. Because human learning patterns are different from ours, Dr. Quexvel replied. Their methods seem intuitive to them, but are extremely complex for other species to understand. We assumed we could learn their techniques when needed, but we never truly grasped the underlying principles. Admiral Kex Thane spoke up. There is something else, Chancellor. Our intelligence analysts have been studying the human evacuation. We believe this situation was planned. Vex Thyron turned sharply. Planned? You mean they deliberately caused these failures? Not exactly, Kex Thane replied carefully. We think the humans anticipated being expelled from galactic society eventually. They prepared for that possibility by making themselves indispensable while secretly developing completely independent capabilities. He activated another display showing the timeline of human activities over the past several years. Look at this pattern, he continued. Human teams consistently chose to work on critical infrastructure projects. They always volunteered for the most essential systems. And they always designed improvements that were difficult for other species to maintain. You think this was a deliberate strategy? Senator Crackneth asked angrily. We think humans understood that most species would eventually fear their capabilities. Kex Thane answered. So, they prepared for rejection, while making the cost of that rejection extremely high. Dr. Quexvel added, the humans also systematically collected detailed information about all our technologies. They gained comprehensive knowledge of galactic civilization while sharing very little of their own advanced capabilities. The implications were staggering. The humans had not just been members of galactic society. They had been studying it, learning from it, and preparing to survive without it. What about the Sol barrier? Vex Thyron asked. How advanced is human technology? That, wary there. Unclimb. Much more advanced than they revealed, Admiral Kex Thane admitted. The barrier around their system uses energy manipulation beyond our understanding. If they had this technology all along, why did they not use it to defend themselves during the Senate vote? The answer was becoming clear to everyone in the room. The humans had not wanted to defend themselves. They had wanted to leave. The Senate vote had given them the perfect excuse to withdraw from a galactic community they had outgrown. Sir, interrupted Communications Officer Yelprex, we are receiving priority distress signals from the Andrathi system. Their medical facilities are failing. Without human-designed treatment protocols, they cannot treat patients with genetic disorders. More emergency calls followed. The Mercanti reported complete breakdown of their manufacturing networks. The crystalline resonance, were experiencing mental network failures that threatened their collective consciousness. Every species that had voted to expel humanity was now desperately dependent on human expertise to survive. We must reach them, Vex Thyron decided. Prepare the fastest ship available. I will go to the Sol system personally. Chancellor, that could be extremely dangerous, Admiral Kexthane warned. We do not know how the humans will react to our approach. Billions of lives are at stake, Vex Thyron replied. We caused this crisis. We must try to fix it. 3 days later, the Senate's most advanced diplomatic vessel approached the edge of the Sol system. The ship carried Chancellor Vex Thyron, Admiral Kexthane, and a small team of scientists and engineers. As they reached the outer planets, they encountered the barrier that had mystified galactic scientists. It appeared as a shimmering wall of energy that completely enclosed the human solar system. Scanning the barrier, reported Science Officer Dex Cole. I am detecting energy patterns unlike anything in our databases. The technology involved is centuries ahead of our capabilities. Try to send a communication, ordered Vex Thyron. No response, sir. The barrier seems to absorb all signals we transmit. They flew along the barrier for hours, looking for any weakness or opening. The energy field was perfectly uniform and impenetrable. Weapon tests had no effect. Even their most sensitive scanners could not penetrate it to see what lay beyond. Sir, Admiral Kexthane said quietly, if the humans had this technology available during their membership in galactic society, they were far more advanced than any of us realized. Vex Thyron stared at the barrier that separated them from the species they had expelled. They were not members of our civilization. We were members of theirs. And we never knew it. The realization was humbling and terrifying. Humanity had not needed galactic society for protection, resources, or technology. They had participated out of choice, perhaps out of curiosity or benevolence. And when that participation became unwelcome, they had simply left, taking with them the knowledge and expertise that had become essential to galactic civilization. Take us home, Vex Thyron ordered sadly. We need to find other solutions. As their ship turned away from the Sol barrier, emergency signals continued arriving from across the galaxy. More systems were failing every day, and there was no sign that humanity was willing or able to help. The species that had feared human strength were learning that human absence was the greater threat. But by the time they understood their mistake, it might already be too late to fix it. 10 weeks after the vote to expel humanity, Chancellor Vex Thyron sat alone in his office as reports of civilizational collapse continued to arrive. Entire star systems were evacuating as life support failed. Trade networks had completely broken down. Food production had dropped so low that famine threatened billions of people across the galaxy. Then, without warning, every communication system in galactic space activated simultaneously. A calm, familiar voice spoke from every speaker, every screen, and every communication device in the galaxy. It was Ambassador Minjun Kim, speaking from somewhere behind the impenetrable Sol barrier. Citizens of the galaxy, his voice began, clear and steady. This is Minjun Kim, former human ambassador to the Galactic Senate. I am speaking to you from Earth. Across the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing and listened. On Krathos Prime, miners in emergency shelters gathered around communication screens. On Nexus 7, stranded traders looked up at the displays in the dark corridors where they waited for rescue ships that might never come. 10 weeks ago, this Senate voted to expel humanity from galactic civilization, Minjun continued. You cited our aggressive nature, our unpredictable behavior, and our dangerous potential as reasons for this decision. We accepted your verdict and withdrew as requested. Vex Thyron rushed to the Senate chamber, where other representatives were already gathering. The huge screens normally used for votes and debates now showed the image of the human ambassador, sitting calmly at a simple wooden desk. Since our departure, you have experienced what you call system failures and infrastructure collapse, Minjun said. We call it the natural result of removing a species that had become integrated into your civilization's foundation. Senator Crackneth stood up angrily. They sabotaged our systems. This proves humans are dangerous. But Min-jun seemed to hear the comment, though that should have been impossible. Senator Crackneth, we did not sabotage anything. We simply took our knowledge and expertise with us when we left. The systems that are failing because they depended on human maintenance, human understanding, and human problem-solving abilities. The chamber fell silent. Somehow, the human was monitoring their reactions and responding in real time. For 50 years, humanity participated in galactic civilization. Min-jun continued. We contributed medical advances that saved billions of lives. We designed technologies that made your worlds more livable. We created solutions to problems that had existed for centuries. Images began appearing on the screens. Medical facilities where human-designed treatments had cured previously fatal diseases. Atmospheric processors that had made dead worlds habitable. Communication networks that had connected distant civilizations. But we also did something else, Min-jun said. We prepared for the day when fear would overcome gratitude, when suspicion would replace cooperation. Humans are excellent at learning from history, and history told us that different species are rarely trusted for long. Admiral Kexthane stepped forward. How are you broadcasting this? Our most advanced technology cannot penetrate the Sol barrier. Min-jun smiled slightly. Admiral, the Sol barrier is not meant to keep signals out. It is meant to demonstrate that human technology has advanced far beyond what we shared with galactic civilization. New images appeared on the screens. Space stations of impossible size and complexity orbited around Earth. Ships unlike anything in the galactic fleet moved between the planets of the Sol system. Energy collectors the size of moons gathered power from the human sun. While we participated in your civilization, we also continued developing our own, Min-jun explained. We built technologies that made your most advanced systems look primitive. We could have shared these advances, but we learned that species fear what they cannot understand. Chancellor Vex Thyron found his voice. Why are you telling us this now? Because, Min-jun replied, the galaxy is dying, and we are not without compassion. The screens changed to show the current crisis. Worlds where the air was becoming unbreathable. Space stations where life support was failing. Agricultural systems producing too little food to sustain populations. Humans are not cruel, Min-jun continued. We take no pleasure in your suffering, even though it results from your decision to expel us. We will provide humanitarian aid to prevent loss of life. Hope flickered in the chamber. Senator Fel-Oren spoke up quickly. What aid? Can you repair the systems that are failing? Num. We can provide emergency support to keep your populations alive, Min-jun answered. Atmospheric processors to maintain breathable air. Food production assistance to prevent starvation. Medical supplies for critical health care. 2. Number 3. 8. In exchange for what? Vex Thyron asked, suspecting there would be conditions. Nothing. Min-jun replied simply. We are offering humanitarian aid because it is the right thing to do. We will not let beings die because of political decisions made in fear. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. This was not what they had expected. However, Min-jun continued, raising his voice slightly. We will not rejoin galactic civilization, and we will not restore the systems you have come to depend on. Those days are over. But why? Demanded Senator Crackneth. If you can help, if you have such advanced technology, why not share it? Min-jun's expression became serious. Because trust, once broken, cannot be easily repaired. You expelled us, not because we harmed anyone, but because you feared what we might do. That fear will not disappear, and we will not wait for it to return. What will happen to galactic civilization? asked Dr. Quexvel. You will adapt, Minjun answered. You will learn to maintain your own systems. You will develop your own solutions to problems. You will become independent of technologies you do not understand. It will be difficult, and it will take time, but you will survive, and eventually thrive. Images appeared showing human cargo ships approaching various worlds. The ships were like nothing in the galactic fleet, sleek and powerful with energy signatures that sensors could barely measure. Our aid ships are already en route to worlds facing immediate crisis, Minjun announced. They will provide emergency supplies and temporary support systems. Our crews will not land and will not interact with local populations. They will simply deliver what is needed and leave. Chancellor Vex Thyron realized this was humanity's final offer. Is there no possibility of renewed cooperation? Can we not rebuild the relationship that was lost? Minjun paused for a long moment before answering. Chancellor, cooperation requires mutual respect. The vote to expel us was not close. 847 species decided humans were too dangerous to tolerate. That is not a small disagreement that can be easily resolved. But we were wrong, Vex Thyron admitted publicly. We acted in fear and ignorance. We made a terrible mistake. Yes, you did, Minjun agreed calmly. And the consequences of that mistake will reshape galactic civilization. But that is not necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps in the future, when your civilization has learned to value diversity over conformity and cooperation over fear, our species can interact again. How long will that take? Senator Felorin asked sadly. That depends on you, Minjun replied. Humans will continue to develop and grow behind the Sol barrier. When you have proven that you can build a civilization based on respect rather than fear, perhaps we can discuss new forms of cooperation. The transmission began to fade. The aid ships will arrive within days, Minjun concluded. Use the time they give you wisely. Learn to stand on your own, to trust in each other's differences rather than fear them, and to build something better than what was lost. The screens went dark. In the silence that followed, representatives began to understand the full scope of what had happened. They had not simply expelled a member species. They had driven away their teachers, their problem solvers, and their most capable allies. But the humans, even in leaving, had shown them more mercy than they had shown humanity. As emergency aid from Earth began arriving at worlds throughout the galaxy, alien civilizations faced a choice. They could work together to rebuild what was lost, learning to solve their own problems and trust each other's contributions. Or they could fragment further, allowing fear to destroy what remained of galactic cooperation. The humans had given them the chance to choose. What they did with that chance would determine whether galactic civilization deserved a second opportunity to know humanity. Behind the Sol barrier, Minjun Kim looked out at stars that humans were already beginning to explore, with technologies that made galactic space travel look slow and primitive. The galaxy they had left would learn and grow, or it would fail on its own. Either way, humanity would continue moving forward, as they always had, as they always would.